Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 14, Episode 57. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Friday, Steelers Nation, as the Pittsburgh Steelers will be back at home this weekend for Sunday's Week 13 game at Acrisure Stadium, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, hosting the 2-10 Arizona Cardinals. Dave, how you doing? A lot to talk about today.
Happy Friday. Happy December, Alex. You ready to unleash some hell today? Boy, it's been how many years? 14 years since Mike Tomlin had that press conference on, I think it was November 30th even. I think yesterday was the 14th anniversary of that. And obviously we talked a little bit about that with John Harris the other day during the great interview that we had with him. Arizona Cardinals coming up on Sunday. Should be an interesting game, and got a great guest on today who covers them. So it should be a fun show, hopefully, for everybody.
Yeah. And that guest is Bob McManaman. He covers the Cardinals for the Arizona Republic. And so we'll talk to him in a little bit, get his perspective on Arizona's season. But Dave, we'll start with the Pittsburgh Steelers and their injury situation, their health situation, and some really good news when it comes to one free safety, Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's practiced in full on Wednesday and Thursday. We don't know his status for the game yet. That won't come out until later today on the Friday and final injury report. But looking very likely like Minkah Fitzpatrick will return to the Pittsburgh Steelers secondary.
Yeah, look, it'd be great to see him back out there again, right? So keep your fingers crossed he makes it through the Friday practice fine. Everything's trending in the right direction with him. I think it would be a little bit of a surprise right now, or really something unfortunate, really, at this point for him not to be back on the field. This would be, the first time since week 1 that they've had Minkah, Cam, and who else am I missing on the defense?
And Hayward.
And Hayward. Cam, Minkah,
Minkah, and Watt.
And Watt all on the field at the at the same time. So that will be a welcome sight. Assuming that happens there. The rest of the injury report looks like it's shaking out pretty good. It sounds like we'll see Montravius Adams back on the field on Sunday, more in the reserve role, I would anticipate this time around. Who else? Kenny's fine with that ankle. Allen Robinson looks like he's going to be good to go. I think really the only question mark, I guess, would be Calvin Austin, right? Because he returned back to practice on Thursday in a limited fashion. So we'll have to see what Friday holds for him. Everybody else, I think, sounds good to go. So I don't know. We going to get to a Calvin Austin questionable on Friday?
Potentially, and it begs the question, if he can't play, you're generally healthy in your receiver room, but who is your punt returner? And your options are Diontae Johnson, who's done it before, including against Arizona. And our group chat reminded me of that back in 2019, had that punt return for a touchdown. Johnson was sent home yesterday with an illness, but I don't anticipate that holding him out of this game this weekend. James Pierce had a shoulder injury. He's been battling, but he's been playing through it. So assume that he will again. And Cam Hayward's been getting extra rest this week. But with Austin, if he can't go, who is your punt returner?
Yeah, I would think Diontae Johnson or Patrick Peterson's done it before, right?
For Arizona, funny enough.
For Arizona, Anthony, do you really what do you got to do with the running back position? Because you're probably not going to have Godwin and McFarland both active. It'll be interesting to see what way they go this time on. I haven't given it a lot of thought. I understand why they didn't last week. It was a lot of special teams related there, but now you run into a situation where you might not have Calvin Austin III. So it will be, we'll obviously know 90 minutes before kickoff, and we'll see what the injury report says today. Hopefully, Calvin Austin's not listed as questionable, but I think overall, these guys that they've listed as questionable have ended up playing on Sunday. So maybe questionable won't be that big of a deal when it comes to him.
Yeah, well, I think with the running back position, it may come down to, is Blake Martinez active or not? If he's active and can help out on special teams, then maybe a guy like Igor Buke is not as needed, and McFarland can, be in his role as the kick returner and potentially punt returner. He's not really done it before, but I imagine he can be in consideration at the least to practice, maybe some preseason type stuff. So we'll see on that. But yeah, Calvin Austin, the big name I'm watching here for Friday's report.
All right, and the Cardinals are a pretty banged up bunch, aren't they? Looks like they started off looking like a Walgreens receipt there.
Yeah, and they still look pretty. It's still pretty lengthy here, getting later in the week, and Bob will kind of go over some of those injuries as well. But some notable names not practicing with Hollywood Brown, Antonio Hamilton, Trey McBride. Sounds like he's going to play the number one tight end. He's got a groin injury. Michael Wilson, their speedy rookie, looking unlikely to play in this one. Jalen Thompson, one of their starting safeties, probably is going to go, but he's got some rib issues as well. So a 2-10 team with injury. Starling Thomas V, their corner, he's not looking likely to play this week, so they're missing some notable names on their end.
All right, so it'll be interesting to see how their injury report shakes out later today.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be one to watch because it's going to be probably pretty heavy with some game statuses and guys getting ruled out and being questionable and things to watch for Friday and for Saturday, depending on elevations and what moves they make there. But we'll talk about it more with Bob and in our preview a little bit later in the show. All right, Dave, the coordinators were speaking yesterday, Eddie Faulkner and Teryl Austin, talking with the media, and we'll start with Faulkner. And it was kind of like it's a second presser as OC, but really the first, because that last one last week was so chaotic with, the firing and the questions about that, and not really sure what to expect, and haven't seen a Faulkner, managed week in terms of game action, what the results were. To me, and I talked about this in my terrible take today, the thing that struck me the most about Faulkner was he made a point to say that the results of Sunday, the improved performance, the traction this offense saw, was really critical because it really is going to create that buy-in for these players of, look at what we accomplished. Yeah, we didn't score enough points and things to work on, but you're seeing some fruits of that labor. And I think the message it resonates more in that room when you kind of see those results occur right away.
Yeah, I thought that hit home with me. I thought he made sure, went out of his way to praise other guys on the staff and that kind of stuff as well too. He talked, let's see, what was different with the way you went about it last week. He said we scheduled meetings, did some things a little bit different to make sure we had total clarity on things. That's really it. He says it wasn't much different than that. We just really, really honed in on the details. He says, I've got to say that. And then he goes on to praise offensive staff was incredible. Can't say them all. He said, I could say them by name. He says, you know who they are. They were awesome. So, he really made sure to pass the hat and pass, just gave credit where credit was due all the way around. So, other than that, at the end of the thing, he did say we got to score more points.
An ode to Canada.
Right. So, anything else stick out to you? What he said?
Well, one specific thing he said, and it was more framed of he heard this from players in terms of the feedback, but he said that the play calls were coming in quicker. And is that just better streamlined communication? I'm not quite sure, but that is, I think, notable for an offense that's still young and just in general, for those things to come in as soon as possible. I think it's really important. So there's time to get to the line and make checks and just, not have that kind of frantic moment before you break the huddle. It's just not a good way to set a tone for the play. So that to me is one notable thing where it sounds like the communication has been more streamlined and just more effective and efficient overall.
Look, they it was noticeable, and obviously it didn't translate into points that we talked about there, but they've just got to now just build on what they did. It's a good week to do it too against a defense that's had some problems in the Arizona Cardinals. So yeah, I think we'll see hopefully we'll see them build a little bit more on some of those newer things that were, or at least some of the things like the 13 personnel, those kind of things. Because look, they should be able to run on this Cardinals defense here, and I think the weather's calling for. I think some rain potentially on Sunday there, so it could be wet and all like that. This team needs to continue to build off the running game, and I kind of got the takeaway that was the plan.
Yeah, he talked about 13 personnel and said that was part of their package against the Bengals. May not be their package against the Cardinals, and it may, vary game by game. But you just saw them being able to adapt to a particular game plan. He gave Allen Robinson some praise, the slot wide receiver, for doing the dirty work, and a guy that's buying in, and accomplished receiver. He was once a high draft pick, once 1,000-yard receiver, but now he's blocking on insert blocks and making the occasional tough third down catch. So the numbers for him certainly are not gaudy, and the contract for next year is not tenable. He won't return under that number, but I think he's brought what the Pittsburgh Steelers hoped he would bring when they traded for him over from the Rams in terms of the blocking, the mentorship, the occasional third down catch over the middle. And I think he's just a good example and good model of, here's a guy who's really humble, and he could, want the ball the way the receivers typically want the ball, but he's the guy that's just doing whatever it takes to help the team win.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll also address the running back and how position and how Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren complement each other. So I think we'll see more of kind of the split and the touch split moving forward there. He talked about Glenn Thomas, someone you wrote about just recently.
Yeah, I didn't write about that article. I don't think there was somebody else that wrote that article about
okay.
Glenn Thomas. But yeah, he's one of the new assistants. He came over from Arizona State, and just talked about Thomas's experience at the college level for some of these, Power 5 teams, and one of those assistants that are putting their hand in the pile to help out this team and form a game plan.
He talked about how him and Sullivan seem to be lock and step and all like that, and that seemed to be an issue with the actual operations that go with both of them being on the sideline and with Sullivan calling the plays.
Yeah, Faulkner said he suggested a couple plays to Sullivan, but credited Sullivan for calling a great game overall. So again, first time out, things to work on, too much negativity, have to improve red zone play. Faulkner made a point that details become even more magnified in the red zone where space is condensed. And so that has to improve. That's how this team is going to score the points that they want to. Sounds like their goal is 3 touchdowns per game, and obviously fell short of that against Cincinnati. But again, you saw the wheels in motion, the foundation being set to hopefully build upon what they started last Sunday.
All right. What about Teryl Austin?
Yeah, probably less so, I think, overall from Austin there. Said at some point he imagines that Blake Martinez will get a hat and have some sort of role. What that'll be, it's hard to say. They seem to be pretty happy with Michael Walker right now. And of course, Landon Roberts is playing extremely well. When it comes to Trenton Thompson, we talked about, I believe, Wednesday, what his role is going to be, assuming that Minkah Fitzpatrick comes back, which seems very likely at this point. And, Austin obviously was not committed to anything, but essentially, to me, was implying that Thompson's still going to have a role in this defense, even when the secondary gets healthy.
Yeah, that's the way I took that as well too, and he's obviously he's easy to spot on the field, as we've noted, in his time due to injury being out there. So I'm with you. I expect to continue to see him out there even as this team gets healthier here. What do you think about his comments on Darius Rush? He was asked about.
Yeah, let me pull up the exact quote there. It didn't say a whole lot. He's been working as the dime defender. Kind of talked about James Pierre being up in terms of he's playing some packages as well. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Will he get a hat this week with Minkah coming back? It seems like he may be the odd man out, but a guy that's been able to dip his toe in the water in some of those situational packages, and he's played some slot corner and kind of mugged the A-gap occasionally, and played some safety against Tennessee and some of those kind of post-snap rotations. So just good for him to get some snaps in, some tape to evaluate, maybe make the mistake and learn from it. That's all positive.
I was hoping he would get asked about DeMarvin Leal, but that didn't come to fruition there. So that's a bit unfortunate. I thought for sure maybe we'd get some questions about the lack of playing time that Leal has had.
Really want to see your projected and active post this weekend. This D line's healthy, assuming that Adams is going to be good to go, which it appears that he will. And so, who is the odd man out? I think it's going to come down to either Leal or Armand Watts. I want to see what direction you go in.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and look at some positional snaps and all, and what maybe they can do with Watts and his versatility versus that of Leal's. That might be the telltale sign. I'm with you. I think it's going to be one of those two, especially if Montravius Adams is healthy enough to go.
Watts can play up and down the line, and he's been getting more reps because he's been getting some of those backup rotational nose tackle reps. He was doing that in Chicago last year, was playing more base end with Pittsburgh prior to Adams going down in week 9. So there is more versatility with Watts, but in week 9, when Adams was healthy and the D line was healthy for the first time since week 1, Watts was the odd man out. But since then, Leal's snaps have become almost invisible, 12 snaps over the last 3 games. So we'll see how it looks.
Week 9, was that the Titans game?
Yes, that was a Titans game.
Okay, and they obviously centered around the run and Derrick Henry, and this week you're going to have an offense centered around the run of James Conner. I usually don't write that post until later tonight or Saturday morning there, but my gut's leading me to think that Watts might be the odd man out here, and I mean, we'll see what I come down to final, but the talking point will be if Leal is the inactive.
Yeah, I mean, the snap counts would suggest that, but again, with Adams coming back, it may change that equation some. So we'll have to see come 11:30 on Sunday.
All right, what else we got from Austin? Anything?
No, to me, that was basically it overall. Although it is important, as you stated, and Austin made the point, this will be, we assume, so long that Minkah Fitzpatrick returns this weekend. First time since week 1 that Watt and Hayward and Minkah will be on the field together. It was like when Diontae came back was the first time you had Diontae and Pickens, and then when Freiermuth came back, and then you had all those guys together. How many snaps this season has Watt and Hayward and Minkah been on the field together? It's 15. Maybe.
Oh,
I mean,
wow! I can find out here if you vamp a little bit.
Yeah, it's a small number. So to have all your stars available at once has been rare. Obviously Hayward got hurt in the first half of week 1, tried to come back for 2 odd snaps, and he couldn't go, and then he was out until week 9, and then by then Minkah was out because he got hurt in week 8. So you've lost 2 of your stars for large chunks of the season. Hayward for the first half, and Minkah for essentially 5 games. He got hurt so early in that week 8 game against Jacksonville. Watt, knock on wood, has thankfully been healthy. So to have all those guys out there together is something you have not seen really since last season.
Yeah, I'm trying to scroll down here and see if I can pull this up quickly in an overview here. Oh boy,
it's not many snaps, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I can try to pull something up here, but
yeah, you've got your I don't have your defensive charting pulled up here. I'm going off the NFL.
That's probably going to be
detail, so it's harder to scroll through it here.
Let's try to check really briefly. Just going to have a quick look. Looks like, according to me, 12 snaps.
Okay.
So, long time coming for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
All right. And obviously going to be saddled with stopping the run this week.
Yeah, because the Cardinals are still committed to running the ball, and they have run the ball well. That's one of the few things they have done effectively this season. Anything from any players? I know I don't really want to beat the dead horse. It is Diontae Johnson. They're all moving on. Kenny Pickett says they love Diontae. I thought he was, he took responsibility. He owned it in front of the team, in front of the media. I'm moving past. I hope everybody will do the same.
Yeah, and we talked ahead of and right before Diontae talked to the media on Wednesday there. We talked about how we hoped he would talk to the media on Wednesday. We hoped he would say the things that he really ended up saying there overall. And to me now when it comes to him is, don't tell me about the labor pain, show me the baby, or don't show me the baby anymore. I guess specifically, because look, I mean, that wasn't a good look for him. Obviously, we knew it was going to be a talking point about him throughout the week. He's been blasted by anybody and everybody on these talk shows, even Ryan Clark and all the guys on inside the NFL on Tuesday night made sure to take their shots at him there. I understand the frustration with the fan base right now when it comes to a guy like Diontae, because of all the other things that we end up talking about Diontae. But I wrote an article. There's been a lot of pushback with the fan base, and I understand it. But I think it's a little bit strong, at least from where I sit right now. And I think even Jerry Dulac had an article on in the Post-Gazette this morning about kind of fears that Diontae might become the next, problem Antonio Brown, if you will. And once again, I understand the negative things that come along with Diontae, the drops, the running backwards sometimes after a catch. Obviously the on-field letting his emotions get to him, however you want to phrase it. Sometimes the body language isn't great, or definitely through the first half of the season, the body language at times on the field has not been great. He obviously missed, had some missed time within there too. I know that's got him frustrated. And then you have the stuff, that allegedly happened in the locker room. I get all of the baggage there. Even so, I'm not to the point right now, and I don't believe the Steelers are to the point right now where they're thinking, after this season, we got to do what we need to do to try to get him out of town. I don't think that makes sense from a financial standpoint, from a roster standpoint, overall when it comes to him. Now, might I change my tune here in the next, the remaining of the season? It's possible. But look, I'm willing to bet he got beat up pretty hard by Mike Tomlin in those meeting rooms this week. Right. And I think Mike Tomlin kind of left him. I think Mike Tomlin did a good job on Tuesday, kind of leaving him hanging out in the wind, so to speak, saying that's something that he's going to have to address with the media and his teammates, that kind of thing. He's saying he wasn't going to add any more color to it other than that. I think he understands the severity of what happened in this game. And look, if there's anything, and it's a very small positive here to try to pull out of what happened in that game of Cincinnati, at least he didn't go in the tank for the rest of the game. He had that catch down the sideline. He had that big catch on that low ball on third down there. I thought he did a couple other decent things in that game that a lot of people won't talk about moving past that there. We've just have got to stop seeing the controllable kind of things that he can control stop happening. We got to stop, if we're talking about him after a game, it should be positive, right. Now might there be a drop in there? Might there be, man, you got to figure out which way the compass points north here. Yeah, I understand that kind of stuff's probably going to continue to surface here, but is there anything right now? And you read the article that I wrote last night there. Is there anything that would lead you to believe that Diontae Johnson will be out of town by March 20th?
No, I fully expect Diontae Johnson to be a Steeler in 2024.
Do you think that's the right decision?
I do.
From where you sit right now.
I do. I understand the frustration with him. And again, I mean, I've said all I can really say about Diontae Johnson. I mean, I think he's a talented player that has to get out of his head sometimes, not stack negative plays, but he does more good to Pittsburgh right now than harm. Doesn't always feel like that, I understand, but replacing him would be tough to do. They're lacking some of the receiver depth right now. So I expect and want Diontae to be a Steeler in 2024.
Man, if you jettison him and realistically, if they were going to do that, it would seem like it would be by March 20th, right? because of the $3 million roster bonus he's due.
Right.
All right. So if you are listening to this and you are gung ho on thinking that they need to get Diontae Johnson out of town, either via cutting him or via a trade, okay. All right. But if you do that, and look, Allen Robinson's not coming back on the salary he's making or scheduled to make, right? I mean, there's no way they're going to pay him $10 million next year.
Yeah, he could come back on some sort of redone, reworked, tear up the deal, new one, but not at his number. He's got to play for a much, much smaller number next year.
All right, let's say that somehow that ends up materializing with Allen Robinson coming back at $2 million, $3 million max there. And you did end up jettisoning Diontae Johnson by March 20th. Your wide receiver room at that point is really George Pickens, Calvin Austin III, and Allen Robinson. And yes, I understand. Look, here's my thoughts on this, Alex. I almost called you Alan.
I'll take it. I've been called worse.
Alan Kozora. Alex, regardless of what happens with Diontae, I think this team's drafting a wide receiver. Would you agree with that?
I do. They need slot production. Like, I like what Robinson has done. I talked about the gritty stuff, but the last 2 years, Dave, their slot receivers have done nothing.
Right.
Claypool, Olszewski, Sims, Austin, Robinson. I mean, what did they combine? Probably 50 catches. I mean, that's over 2 seasons from the slot. That's not enough.
All right. And you're specifically thinking not only will they need to draft a receiver, they need to draft a slot receiver.
Yeah, now that can come in different forms, big
Sure.
slot, small slot, might depend. And there's probably some outside depth needed because on the outside, behind Diontae and George, it's looking pretty thin. Boykin, a special teamer. So you may even see a double dip or something. I mean, it's all on the table for me right now.
I mean, I think, once again, and Diontae primarily is your X guy. So, I think regardless of what happens with Diontae, you're drafting a wide receiver. You could even, regardless of what happens with Diontae, because look, if he's gone, he's gone. So then not only do you need a slot receiver, you're going to need another X probably. And then,
well, definitely. Yeah.
And then how quickly can what are you going to get and how quickly can you bring that kid along? And you'd have to get one probably in the first 3 or 4 rounds. Most definitely to find a replacement for him. That's just that's another reason why. I'll end it with this. We got plenty of time to talk about the draft and all.
Yeah.
Deontay's going to have to become a lot more of a problem child than he is right now for me to think that this team's going to move on from him during the offseason.
Sure. The only caveat I would add, and I want to move on and talk about, some other stuff. His contract runs through 2024, correct?
Right.
So what happens after that? Does he get another deal? And if you're not anticipating that, you try to get a year ahead of it to look for a receiver for a potential replacement for Diontae. There's a lot more validity to will Pittsburgh pay him again than will Pittsburgh hold on to him for 2024?
Sure. I in no way, shape, or form do I think they're going to go to the bargaining table with him this offseason. All right. So, and then you do have to start thinking ahead. So once again, even if you do keep him, you could see this team double dip. And I know some people say, well, you got free agency. How many times have we seen this team make a significant ad at the what? And look, Omar Khan obviously, might do things different here, but I wouldn't expect, and even if you look at the free agent wide receivers out there or expected guys out there this offseason, I wouldn't expect them to be big players in the top end of the list. I think you get another, maybe you add a low value guy that you think can play multiple positions and all like that. The way you get ahead of it is just as we talked. You draft both the slot guy, a bigger slot guy, and you draft another X to develop, assuming that 2024 is going to be Diontae's last season. That's the way I envision them addressing this thing. Now, look, if you jettisoned Diontae, then you might have to think about, two in the draft and a free agent,
Yeah, I mean, and we'll talk, more about draft. I mean, I'm not saying they have to draft two or they will draft two, but it is a possibility. There are some needs inside and outside. And yeah, trying to sign a free agent receiver first, they're so expensive because the market just they get pushed up. You saw what Odell got paid, what Christian Kirk got paid a couple years ago. They don't play that game. They draft develop. That's what Pittsburgh has always done with receivers and will continue to do with receivers. They have a good eye, obviously, for valuing those guys. But to the point, Diontae will be a Steeler in 2024.
I agree.
All right, moving on. Some Steelers news we should mention as well. The NFL has finally announced the day and time of Pittsburgh's Week 15 game against the Indianapolis Colts. That will be Saturday, December 16th at 4:30 p.m. So Pittsburgh will have two Saturday games this season, one on the 16th, and then the following week will be against the Bengals on Saturday, December 23rd. That's been locked in since the schedule came out. But a couple of Saturday games this year, Dave.
Enjoy this Saturday 1:00 game or Sunday 1:00 game coming up against the Cardinals, Alex, because we won't see the Steelers play on a Sunday again until they play the Seattle Seahawks on the road at the end of December in week 17, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a weird schedule. You got this game Sunday's normal, then a Thursday game, and then you're coming up on your Saturday games back to back, and then it's almost 2024.
All right.
One other just quick note here. I know it's not related to the actual Steelers, but actually this post became pretty popular on the site yesterday, so I figured we would mention it. Not set in stone, not confirmed, but all the reporting indicating that the Pittsburgh Maulers of the now basically done with USFL, because the USFL and the XFL have merged into a new league. Does not appear the Maulers will be part of that new league, and so it sounds like they're going to get frozen out here, largely because they don't have a stadium to play in. They were playing in Canton, Ohio at Tom Benson Stadium. There was a Pittsburgh name team playing in Ohio. There was no place to put them. And so without a stadium, without kind of that draw, it was probably really hard for the Maulers to survive.
Overall, my overall takeaway, first and foremost, that's a shame. B, what a great logo.
You like the logo?
I really like their logo. There's some nostalgia in there with me being older and obviously the older Pittsburgh Maulers team. My only real drill down on all of this and the developmental leagues, and I've talked about this and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I sure wish there was a way they could have these players have association to NFL teams somehow, some way. I think it would really help the interest in the league if it was like the old world Europe league and all like that. It's too bad that that league wasn't playing now with the access you have to all these games now. I think it would force people that cover the team and fans of the team to pay more attention to all of the of this developmental league more if there were 10 players scattered around the league that say the Steelers had rights to, so that way you could go in and you could do film rooms and focus less on individual teams, especially being as it doesn't look like you're going to have one representing the Steelers this offseason. I just wish there was a way that they could find a way for NFL teams to have stake in an X amount of players.
I mean, I'm not opposed to that, but the NFL is not going to pay for it. They're not going to have that cost in there. So there was a way to just kind of assign it. Then
maybe they should. Maybe the NFL will end up taking this on,
Why would they want to? This league's not going to make money. These leagues don't make money. Only one football league makes money, the NFL,
Yeah, and that's probably why, we haven't ever seen any of these things survive,
Right. I assume that's why these leagues are merging in the first place.
Sure. It's all
two
about
spring leagues was not going to work.
Yeah, just follow the money, right? For sure. But I do wish I do wish NFL teams were able to have some stake in this to some degree, where they had like 10 players scattered around the league that we could track. I think it would help the viewership and all and the interest.
Yeah, I think it would. I don't know how much, but it certainly would not hurt. But anyway, that's the reporting, again, not made official, but it seems very likely the Maulers are going to be no more. All right, Dave, let's talk to our guest this week who covers the Arizona Cardinals for the Arizona Republic. That's Bob McManaman. You can follow him on Twitter at AZBobbyMac. I love that handle, AZBobbyMac. We'll talk with Bob, longtime beat writer for the Arizona Cardinals, get his perspective on this new look Arizona team. Let's take a pause and come back with Bob.
And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Friday, and everybody knows what that means. It means we have a beat writer who covers the opposition on to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers' upcoming game. And with this being Week 13, the Pittsburgh Steelers will be hosting the Arizona Cardinals at Acrisure Stadium on Sunday afternoon. And the Steelers obviously don't play the Arizona Cardinals very often. It's been, I think, 4 years since that happened. And that means it's been 4 years since we have had our guest on the Terrible Podcast. I am, of course, talking about Bob McManaman. And Bob covers the Arizona Cardinals for the Arizona Republic. You can read his work at azcentral.com. You can follow Bob on Twitter/X at AZBobbyMac. That's BOBBYMAC. Bob, been a while. Welcome back to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex on this Friday.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. It was fun last time. I'm sure it'll be a blast this time, too.
We look forward to it. And obviously the Arizona Cardinals are not having the kind of season that they had hoped to have. Have some injuries there with Kyler Murray, obviously coming off his injury from last year, getting a slow start to this year. Let's just start with kind of a 30,000-foot look at this Arizona Cardinals team as they sit right now. You look at the offensive side of football, they're getting some things done on offense. The defense, had some injuries and all like that. What's your kind of overview of this team heading into this week with the new head coach, obviously? What's your overarching thoughts on this team right now?
Well, they're struggling to stay above water, obviously, at 2-10. They didn't have their franchise quarterback until 3 weeks ago, coming off of ACL, Kyler Murray. The defense was playing a lot better than expected, but stat-wise, ranking-wise, yards-wise, points-wise, they're getting torched. But they're almost in every single game. The last time they got blown out by the Rams. But they've been in every game. They've had chances. They've had leads in fourth quarters and have blown it. It's a desperate team searching for answers, but they've hung together. Nobody's quit on each other. Usually you see that. I've covered bad teams here for a long time, going all the way back to 88. And this team has had no departers. They've all hung in. They've all got each other's backs. And they do believe that they're going to get this turned around at some point. Whether it's next year or the year after remains to be seen, but it's not this year. They're a train wreck.
What's your thoughts on Jonathan Gannon and the job? I mean, obviously a daunting task, and not having a franchise quarterback has been extremely tough, and they have had a lot of injuries and all. But what's your kind of assessment of Jonathan Gannon through what you've seen so far this season?
Well, he's honest with himself and his team, and tries very hard to be honest with us. There's a lot of attention to detail. He runs a tighter ship than Cliff Kingsbury ever thought he could. There's mutual respect between the staff and the players, and that carries a lot of weight in the room. You talk to a veteran, a tier 3 guy, a rookie, they all believe in the message that he's sent, which is sent to them since the beginning, which is team first, you second or third. You get on the team first slogan, or you're not going to be here. And that's what we've seen has happened. If anybody has strayed, he's whittled them out of the room already. And he and Monty Austin for it. I think that's important. I think the message has been clear and concise. But when you talk to people, they believe in his methods. He's a first-time NFL head coach. Yeah, and he's made mistakes, and he's quick to take the blame for most of it. even when it isn't his fault. He does own up, and that's accountability, and that's the big thing he's stressing on this team. It hadn't been there from top on onto the bottom, and it's there now. Is the results here? No, but you can see the message is easy enough to buy into, and if you just keep getting better and bring your A game every day to work, you're going to get better as a team, and we're seeing that. The results aren't ready because the roster isn't there yet, and it will be, but it's a ways away.
Bob, to go back to Kyler Murray, as you said, 3 starts off that 2022 torn ACL. How's he moving? Seems to be running around fine, 3 rushing touchdowns. And is he the future for Jonathan Gannon? Is he going to be this team's starting quarterback of the future? Or is it still kind of jury's still out, wait and see on what piece he is for the future of this franchise?
I think they won't come out and say anything other than that he's their guy.
Sure.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I mean, why would you say that if you didn't believe it? Well, coaches and GMs say a lot of things they don't mean.
Yeah, right now you have to say it, but I just wonder, do you think that is reality?
I honestly think they have to keep every option on the table. If they're going to end up with the 2nd overall pick, you could do a lot of wonderful things at number 2, considering the quarterbacks who are out there, considering Marvin Harrison Jr. will be there. We're all assuming these guys will come out for the draft. There's no reason to stay in college for these guys. Mm-hmm. So if you have the 1st or 2nd, you've got to be looking at your options at quarterback. There's just no way you can't. And if you do believe Kyler's your guy, I think that remains to be seen because he's still got 5 games left to play. And yeah, I know this is his 5th year. You should know by now. This is a new staff who hasn't been around him every day. They do love what he's doing, but I think these last 5 games are going to help determine which way they lean. And even if they make a decision after this last regular season game comes up, you never know. I mean, there's something that could jump out at a pro day or at the combine or during an interview with a guy. They're like, wow, we need to take a run at this guy. He may not come along again. And there's no guarantee that guy's going to be your savior. Just like there's no guarantee Kyler's going to be a whole lot better than what he's already put out there on tape. He might. He does look great. I would agree with your assessment. He's moving fantastic. The knee's not on his mind. He's come back. He's 100% healthy. He's learning how to play in the new him, the new body that he has. And those legs, they haven't lost anything. If you've seen these guys play since he's been back, he didn't run hardly at all against the Rams. He did score a touchdown, as you said. But I think everything's on the table for the Cardinals. And if it's not, then I would start to wonder about the direction they're going. Because you've got to be open to anything when you're this bad and you've been this bad for a while.
2 guys that Murray will be throwing to in this game: wide receiver Michael Wilson, their speedster, their big play threat, and tight end Trey McBride. Just want to double check McBride. Is he going to play in this game? He's got that groin injury, but just give me the background on Wilson, McBride. Maybe 2 guys that Steeler fans aren't going to be super familiar with, but 2 guys that are making impact plays for this Cardinals offense.
Well, Wilson hasn't practiced for a while now with the shoulder thing that's been lingering, and so I can't say until today whether we'll know if he's in or not when the final report comes out. But I'll say this, that they love Michael Wilson. Kyler Murray loves Michael Wilson. He gets open. He makes contested catches. He's the tallest guy they have amongst their regulars anyways at 6'2". Plays a little bigger than that. Everybody else they got is 5'7", 5'9". It's not ideal. So that's why Marvin Harrison Jr. to me makes a whole lot of sense at 6'4", with speed. But Michael Wilson is a guy who had great stats to start the year, became quickly involved, and moved into a starting position right away. As soon as he got acclimated to everything, coming off his own injuries from college, he's going to be a keeper. He's going to be a long-term NFL player. Trey McBride is taking it to a whole nother level. And I think Zach Ertz wouldn't have asked for and been granted his release had he not seen what Trey McBride has done in his absence, which is really take over the role of main pass catcher on this team, and turn it into the quintessential tight end of this era, which is a big guy who catches and gets big, tough yards after the catch and doesn't come down easy. And he is on a streak the last 5 games. The numbers are staggering for a tight end since they never really work here until Zach Ertz got here. But then he got hurt. Kyler got hurt. But Trey McBride is kicking it, and he's doing a fantastic job. And he has practiced yesterday on a limited basis. He's dealing with a groin issue. I expect Trey to play, but I can't say the same about Michael. And I really doubt he's going to play Sunday, which is a shame because they need him.
Interesting. Paris Johnson, obviously, top pick in the draft for Arizona. Played, I think, a lot of left tackle over there at Ohio State. They have him over at the right tackle spot. Seems like he's acclimated pretty good over there. He's obviously going to play right tackle in this game against the Steelers. Is the long-term plan for him, do you think, to eventually switch over to left tackle? And what's your overall assessment of Paris Johnson so far?
I think when they drafted him, that was going to be, play here. We thought he might even play at left guard because he has done that in the past because they needed somebody to step in at left guard. But he's held down the right from the start since the beginning of OTAs. It's been him starting ahead of a guy named Kelvin Beachum. Are you guys probably familiar?
Oh yeah, good guy, Kelvin. Yeah,
he was the only guy that started every single game on the line last year at right tackle. And this kid beat him out. I mean, beat him out in OTAs. That's tough to do when you usually split reps, but he's been there from the start. I don't even know if they really feel they have to move him to left tackle. I think what they'll end up doing, guys, is drafting another tackle just to get themselves ready for DJ Humphrey's eventual departure, which could happen sooner than we think.
This team runs a lot of 13 personnel, a lot of three tight ends on the field. And when they don't, they run 2 tight ends on the field. So I think we're going to see a heavy dose of 2 or 3 tight ends in this game. They like to run to the right side. James Conner is doing James Conner thing. Mike Tomlin gave him a lot of praise during his press conference. And look, this is a guy you can't let run downhill on you. Everything I think builds off of their running game, right? They and to their credit, they have run the football pretty good this year.
Yeah, they've been a top 10 running team all year, which is hard to see for a 2-10 team, but they haven't fallen out of that top 10 spot. I think they're at 10th right now, but they get a lot of explosive plays. They're getting more now that Kyler's back. Although again, he only ran one time last week. Right. Problem is last week they only ran 15 times total. James Conner only had 6 carries for 27. And that's just not enough. You've got to feed him the ball. They came into the season knowing they were going to be a power running team. Murray when he got back, would play more under center to open up the offensive playbook. That hasn't been the case. He's 90% out of the gun, and I think that defeats a lot of things. Now, granted, when you're in a shotgun, you can confuse the defense on some stuff, but you eliminate your playbook, and it's not as easy to give Conner the ball out of the shotgun. It's not conducive to his running style. I think under center is the way to go. I think they need to feed him the ball 20 to 25 times. He can handle it. Yeah, he does break down with injuries, but nothing major, thank goodness. Just here and there nicks, and I still think they've got to feed him the ball, especially this week. He is motivated to go back home,
right,
for a lot of different reasons. He had a great run with the Steelers. Obviously, went to Pitt, grew up in Erie. This is going to be a game where you got to feature him and you got to let him just enjoy it. And when he's running with attitude, and you guys have seen that,
right?
Mm-hmm.
He lifts an entire team up. Even a bad 2-10 Cardinals team, he still does it. He's a master motivator for this group, and I think you got to reward that by feeding him the ball until he's just tuckered out. And if they don't do it, they're going to lose worse than what I already have them losing.
Real quick before I turn it over to Alex for some defense questions. It don't look on the all 22 of the last couple of games that I've watched. They don't use a lot of motion, do they? And is that a kind of a topic of conversation with them, and possibly using more motion?
They do it from time to time. It's nothing like you'll see out of a Kyle Shanahan offense, for sure. I think it would behoove them to use it a lot more. It hasn't been a topic of conversation because there's way too many other things to grill this team on and about. So thanks for giving me a great idea, though.
All right.
Bob, talking about the Cardinals front seven, Zaven Collins was a really interesting name when he came out of Tulsa. How has he progressed? Has he kind of found a role the way that Isaiah Simmons was not able to in Arizona? I know there's always kind of been an awkward fit about, is he off-ball guy? Is he an edge rusher? What is he doing for Arizona right now?
Yeah, I hope he turns out to have a better chance than Isaiah did, because I just think Isaiah was thrown way too much at, even though he did it all at Clemson in college. It just Zaven is a thinking man's football player for a defensive guy, and for that reason mainly, and his body size and type, he sure looked like he was going to be a great interior linebacker or a middle linebacker guy. But again, I think they threw too much at him too soon, and now he's in a position change, and they put him up on the line as an outside edge guy, outside backer in this defense. And he's had moments, not consistent, but this team as a group can get after the quarterback. They have as many sacks as the Steelers do.
I told Alex before we jumped on here, damn, I said, look at this team. This team's got as many sacks as the Steelers. Now they're scattered about, but they're putting the quarterback to the ground.
Yeah, and they're disruptive, and they don't force as many turnovers as the Steelers do. But they are disruptive, and Zay was a big part of that. He's a first-year edge rusher in his third year in the league, I want to say, I think. You need a bag of tricks as an edge rusher. Everybody knows the more you play it, the more wiser you'll become in your pass rushing moves. He's a different kind of body for that position, but we've seen guys in that kind of body type succeed very well. Some of them don't. He just needs to come up with some more pass rushing moves. He doesn't have anybody now he can lean on. He did have J.J. Watt, but he was playing a different position when J.J. was here. So I think he needs a lot more coaching and develop some of those intangibles with pass rushing moves and kind of overcome some of the things, because maybe he's not the strongest, even though he's Herculean type looks. He's just not as big as other guys. It's not to say I don't think he won't succeed. I think he will, but he needs some help. He needs some experience, and he needs somebody that can say, here's some of the tricks of the trade. Try this. Take this and use it your own way to become successful. Isaiah didn't have that. I hope this guy gets it.
Sticking with the Cardinals pass rush, their leader is Dennis Gardeck, and I think he's one of the more underrated pass rushers in football that people just don't know, although his career's kind of been a bit strange, where he's had years where there's been sacks and years where there's been none. He's got 5 this year. What's his backstory, and why are the sack numbers kind of waxed and waned throughout his career?
He's certainly the underdog of this defense. Undrafted rookie free agent who made it as special teams, and he reminds me so much of a fullback they had here, who's now their radio color analyst, Ron Wolfley, who just excelled on special teams, owned it, made it his bread and butter, didn't want to switch away from it even when he was actively running with the offense. Dennis is the same thing. He is all in on football, and wants to hit people. And it's when you have that special teams brave to go down the field and crush somebody, and then you put them up and let them go after the quarterback, you're feeding the hungry dog, man. And that's who this guy is. He is underrated. He is the underdog. I don't know how he gets to the quarterback sometimes. I mean, even when he doesn't, he's disruptive. He'll get hurries and hits, and he'll chase a quarterback out of the pocket and force him into mistakes. He does all the little things right, and it's a miraculous. It's an underdog story. The guy, I mean, you don't see many undrafted rookie free agents come in and do what he was able to do. Even if it was for a bad team, he again he's an emotional leader. He's a lot like Connor in that realm, and they're lucky to have him. And I thought he might get cut just because they've got all this money they could use, but the slow rebuild has been the way to go, and they're right. It's keeping what you have. He's a core veteran guy. And those are useful pieces to any team, win or lose.
And he's a max effort dude. I think he ran down Tank Dell against Houston a couple weeks ago, dropping the coverage and chased him down. So I love watching that guy. My last question for you, then I'll have Dave finish things up. Matt Prater, he's got a big leg at 39 still. Does his leg change the Cardinals' approach? I watched that Rams game end of the first half. They're running the ball late in that 2-minute drill to set up the field goal. Does Prater's leg kind of maybe change how it seems to extend their field goal range beyond where other teams normally sit at?
You're exactly right. Here's the problem with that. It should have changed their approach, but this team goes for it on fourth down way too much, and they're not very good at it. Now
the analytics thing, or why do you think that is?
I do, and I think analytics are fine. They're better in baseball than they are in football. When you have a leg, you just said it. I mean, you said it. Prater's leg is at that age is still as strong, if not stronger, than anybody else in this league.
Right.
Why go it on 4th and 5 or 4th and 3? When he's going to kick a 50-yard field goal. I mean, the guy has 16 or 17 of those since he's been on the team, and it's only been a couple 3 years. He's got 5 or 6 or 7 already. He made one the other day, and it got against the Rams, and you called it 56-yarder, and it gets waved off because of a holding call. He's automatic. Don't go for it. Let your kicker kick and take the points and be happy you got anything, in my opinion.
They're banged up at the cornerback position, aren't they? And Starling Thomas is a guy that we thought the Steelers might have a little bit interest in. I think he's banged up. I'm not sure if he's going to play. And I think what's the deal with Antonio Hamilton on the other side? Everybody knows Budda Baker, and they've got some talent in the very back end, and the safeties with Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker. So there's no concern there. But it sounds like there might be some concern at the cornerback position this weekend.
Yeah, I mean they're not only banged up, they're not very good. Sadly. Starling is a pretty interesting rookie pick, and I do like some of the talent there, but they're young. Keitrell Clark, Starling Thomas the fifth, and Garrett Williams, another rookie. That's 3 rookies, by the way, and they're all getting a healthy amount of playing time. Yeah, I think those 3 guys all started last week, and there were among 6 rookies starting overall, which is unheard of. But it does happen. Antonio Hamilton is by far the veteran of the group, but he's dealing with a groin injury. Hasn't practiced the last 2 days. I don't know. I don't think he's going to make it for this game. If he doesn't, Starling hasn't practiced with an ankle the last 2 days. Jalen Thompson is banged up with ribs. God love Budda Baker because he's a savior on the back end. And talk about tracking guys down after big plays. This guy will move anywhere to get a ball carrier down. But they've got talent there, but it's young. And it's totally inexperienced, and it's banged up and it's hurt. So, Kenny Pickett, welcome to a 300-yard game.
You think so, huh?
No, I don't.
they might build a statue for him outside of Acrisure if he does that. But
just manage that game.
Yeah,
Kenny, just manage the game, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. All right, Bob, we got to get you out of here because we know you're a busy man. How about you want to do a prediction for us for this game, or do you want to keep that to yourself?
Sure,
How do you see
no.
how do you see this one going on Sunday?
I think it's going to be a great game, low scoring. Anybody can win this. Yes, the Cardinals even could have a chance, but they're not going to. They're going to lose. They're going to lose by 3 or 10. So, however you want it, 23-17, let's say.
All right, sounds good, Bob. You're absolutely fantastic. It's a shame that we can't have you on more. Who knows? We'll see down the road here. But thanks again for coming on the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.
It's a great one. Thanks for having me.
And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. Again, our special thanks to Bob McManaman. You can follow him on Twitter at AZBobbyMac, the senior sports writer for the Arizona Republic, and all around good guy. Good catching up with Bob, Dave.
It was. And, it's been 4 years since we talked to him, and I sent him an email. He responded right away. He says, sure, I'll come back on with you guys. So that means a lot. And as I told Alex after we got off the call with him, Bob seems like a guy you'd like to, even though I don't drink anymore and I don't think you drink, a guy to go out and get a beer with there. So just a long-time beat writer. We've had several of those this year that we don't normally get to talk to on. And the way you can help us out the best to make sure we continue to get guys like Bob McManaman on is to reach out him on the Twitter machine or email or however you deem it possible. Just thank him, wish him happy holidays, and let him know that you heard him on the Terrible Podcast. So it was good to catch up with him again.
For sure. And again, that Twitter handle to reach out is AZBobbyMac. All right, Dave, let's you and I preview this game. Arizona 2-10. Coming to town, have won just one game since October, but Kyler Murray is back. He started the last 3 games. They're 1-2 over that span, and so they've been a bit more competitive lately. And they have, of course, their starting quarterback back, which is huge for them. What is your impression of this Cardinals offense when you look at it? The run game, I think, is still something to be reckoned with, even though, as Bob said, they're 2-10. They are committed and they are running the ball well.
Look, I didn't know what to expect. I obviously haven't watched a lot of Arizona games leading up to this week. Turned on the tape, though, especially with Kyler Murray back. They're doing a lot of good things on the offensive side of football. Now, I think they're obviously struggling in situational areas here, but at its core, now look, I don't think they use a lot of motion overall. In fact, I'm looking at some stats right now. 41% usage, but it ranks 27th in the league overall, if I'm reading this correctly here. They lean heavy on the run. They got obviously a big back in James Conner. They like to use a lot of tight ends in their offense. 13 personnel. They have used 15% of the time this season. That's second overall, I think, in the NFL heading into this week. And when they're not using 13 personnel, they'll at least have 2 tight ends on the field. They've done that 26% of the time, good for 17th overall percentage ranking in the NFL. So that adds up to about 41% of their offensive plays include 2 or more tight ends. I mean, they've got a couple. I mean, they've got enough of them that they let Zach Ertz. They're not going to bring him back from IR. They released him outright just yesterday there. So Trey McBride, going to be interesting to see the injury status on him. But once again, you're going to see a lot of heavy formational looks with them. A lot of runs probably to the right side. They will run some. They'll get multiple linemen out on the move. They'll do some pin and pull. They like running some power, some counters, and all like that. So this is an offense that's built off of the run, and then they'll try to mix in their shot plays off of that.
And with one of their starting receivers, Michael Wilson, looking unlikely to play in this game, as Bob mentioned, they're going to probably be in 13 personnel even more just to get their big guys out there. And so, the tight ends aren't all household names. McBride has, I think, played really well for them.
Right.
Behind them is Jeff Swaim, Elijah Higgins, who's a former receiver at Stanford, kind of converted H-back type of guy. But Pittsburgh's going to be in their base defense quite a bit. And against 13 personnel specifically, Pittsburgh has either been going to their 4-4 defense with 4 down, true and blue defensive linemen, or a 3 safety, 1 cornerback package, 3-4 with 3 safeties and 1 corner to match on that 1 receiver. So you may see, that's why Minkah coming back could be huge in this one. So you get him and Trenton Thompson, maybe Casey out there, and really kind of have some of your better DBs out on the field. James Conner, as you said, he's run really hard. I was watching that Rams game. He's just, yards after contact and creating, and he's averaging 5.1 yards per carry this year. That's a career high for him. So for a team that is usually playing from behind, they are committed on first down. They are very balanced. They have exactly a 50% split on first down this year in terms of rush pass. It's exactly 50%. So they are trying to at least stay on schedule and try to establish the run, and they have. The problem is just they fall behind and they have to start passing the ball.
Yeah, and James Conner, they used a little bit in the passing game, especially in that game against the Rams, and come to find out, he only has 14 catches on the season. I kind of thought, and look, James Conner showed during his time in Pittsburgh he could catch the ball out of the backfield, so.
Yeah, he missed, how many games did he miss? He missed a little bit of time. It wasn't, a month. Was it, he go on IR? Was it a month that he missed?
Yeah,
he's played in 8 games this year, but still, you would expect more than 14 receptions and averaging 2.6 yards per catch, which is a pretty low number.
Right. As far as the rest of their offense goes overall, they need to stay out of third down situations because I think they've struggled a little bit when it comes to their 35.3% overall. You want to get in a situation as a defense where you can kind of pin your ears back and look, you have to have responsible rush with a guy like Kyler Murray because he will take off with the football. He does it in key situations. I don't know if this stuck out on tape with you though, but in gotta have it kind of situation, his accuracy not all that great overall, and he tried to run himself into a sacker. He's a guy that I think he trusts his health right now, but overall, but I think there's some instances where he's probably should have taken off with the football that he hasn't, or at least fully committed. And look, he's a guy that we've seen this in the past. And in fact, he didn't that last game against the Steelers, he run around on one of those plays like for 9 seconds or something back there. But he is a guy that's going to try to extend the play. He's still got that elusiveness. You better have responsible rushing with him. Mm-hmm. So you're probably going to have to play have your face towards him. Probably not going to see a lot of man from the Steelers unless you get into third down or second down type situation with some shorter yardage overall. But there's 2 guys, or really 3 guys, particularly in the early down instances, you have to concern yourself with. James Conner running the football, their use of Trey McBride in a shorter, controlled passing game, and then you make sure you contain Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing on Murray is that he looks healthy coming off that 2022 ACL tear. He's running. Bob talked about it. He seems confident. There was that mental hurdle that some guys will have when they come back from severe knee injuries like that. He seems to he's gotten past that, at least on tape, it looks like. So he's running. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns. Has more rushing touchdowns than passing touchdowns since he's come back. He's got 3 of those. Some read option stuff on the goal line. They're going to Y arc and get a lead blocker for him if he wants to keep the football. So that design run game and situational football, goal line, short yardage is going to be important. They ran a push on a 2-point play against the Rams with the backup quarterback Clayton Tune. So they got some short yardage type stuff that they're pretty effective at overall. But yeah, containing him is going to be a key. Rush lane integrity is going to be critical in this one. I would also just note, not that he's a big player in the offense, but I was a big fan of Rondell Moore when he came out of Purdue, and he's kind of a gadget guy, RPO guy. They're going to run a bunch of RPOs in this game. Try to get him in space. Got to tackle that guy well in space, because if he makes a guy miss, he may do some damage.
Their tackles are better than their interior players. Obviously have Paris Johnson at right tackle and a veteran in DJ Humphreys over there at left tackle there. Pretty favorable matchup for Alex Highsmith, though, I think, over on that side. But they're three interior guys of Cologne, Froholt, and Will Hernandez. That's where you would expect the Steelers front to win in here, man. I would expect Cameron Hayward to have a pretty good day. Benton versus Froholt's favorable. I would envision Ogunjobi against a guy like Will Hernandez is favorable. They come off of blocks way too easy. I feel they're better. They're a better running team when they can get those guys moving and out on the edge, I think.
I don't know. They got some big people. Hernandez is a huge dude at right guard. He was like 340 coming out of Fresno State, and he's kind of always been that, phone booth type blocker. They got some big people though, so that's why they run the ball well, because I think they're kind of built to do that type of stuff. But for Pittsburgh, since Cam Hayward's come back, they have been top 10 run defense. So that's going to be the trenches. Is where this game's going to be won offensively, defensively when it comes to Arizona's offense against Pittsburgh's defense in this one.
Yeah, much like the Steelers game plan every week, and especially last week against the Bengals, they're going to be focused on shutting down the run. Let's see here. Directionally for the offense, running the football. Right end. Let's see if I can pull up the ranks here. Man, left end, left tackle, first and second in the league directionally. They're 8.44 yards per carry on runs to left end.
How many attempts?
39.
Okay, so pretty healthy sample size.
Yeah, 34 attempts at going to left tackle, 6.91 yards, ranked second in the NFL when it comes to directionally that way. Those seem to be their two strongest run area. Now off left guard, last in the league, just 16 runs to left guard, averaging 2.5 yards per carry. They're kind of a middling team though, running every other direction. So the plays that I watch, they seem to be more right-handed overall, and they are more of a right-handed team. Right tackle, 40 runs, 54 runs to the right end, and the rest of the time they're running high diddle James Conner up the middle. 95 times up the middle with James Conner, 4.0, not with James Conner specifically, but 95 times in total, 4.05 yards per carry. So you got to be tough up the gut against them and probably on the edges. But top to bottom, statistically, success rates and EPA, they're good on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a more basic stat, but their 5.1 yards per carry is third in the NFL, only behind Baltimore and Miami. You wouldn't associate Arizona with those teams, but they're right up there. Just two other quick notes on the offense. Play action, they're going to move the launch point, and Murray's going to boot out, and they're going to roll him out and run some play action. And so they're going to do some things to get him designed on the move and try to get some play action to try to uncork some deep shots downfield. Although without Wilson, you may see some more targets Hollywood Brown's way, their top receiver on the year. And then, as I mentioned, their kicker, Matt Prater, is got a cannon for a leg. He has the NFL record for most field goals of 60-plus yards. It's not Justin Tucker. It's not Janikowski. Matt Prater has 4 career makes of 60+ yards, including a 64-yarder, which was the record for the NFL before Tucker broke it 2 years ago from 66 to beat Detroit. So their field goal range, I know they are going to be on the road in Pittsburgh. It's not going to be like they're in Arizona, and that's going to be a difference. But the weather in Pittsburgh does not seem to be terrible this weekend. And so Prater's got a leg where, 55, he can make it.
Here's the thing too, with their offense, and their defense, really overall, their field position, they have not been great in field position, starting field position this year, and opposing starting field position against them has been way too strong. Now facing an offense, we talked to Bob about how they've seemed to go for it quite a bit on fourth down this year. I envision them maybe getting away from that this week, especially against an offense like the Steelers that hasn't really shown yet that they can put points up on the board overall. They would be wise, I think, to play a strong field position game in this one.
Yeah, I imagine that's one reason why they're struggling, and I'm guessing they go for it on fourth down so much because when you're 2-10, you're probably in situations where you have to go for it on fourth down. So I don't know what the analytics are. I don't know if they're more aggressive early on. I have to do some more research on that, but that may just be a product of when you're 2-10. You're going for it on fourth down more than probably you would like to.
Didn't they have a fake punt against the Rams?
Did they? I don't know if I checked that or not.
Fake something.
I'd have to go back and check. I didn't get a chance to look at that.
But look, this is one of those teams that's out of the playoff picture, so anything goes right now.
Yeah, and again, I mean, they're 2-10, but they started Dobbs and they had that terrible game with Clayton too, and they got the quarterback back, and so really it's kind of like, okay, what have they done the last 3 games? And the results have not been tremendous, but the results have been better.
Right. Look, they're going to try to run the football and build everything off of that. Lot of heavy personnel groupings, like we said. Be careful with Hollywood Brown get behind you.
Yeah. All right, Dave. When it comes to the Cardinals' defense, what sticks out to you?
The most amazing fact that we got to giggle about with Bob there, we talked about it before we got on with Bob, is they have the same amount of sacks as the Steelers do right now. So they're doing something right in that. I don't think they're not a heavy blitz team either, at least from what I saw. So they're getting it done with some of those guys up front there, and they're not blue chip known guys up front either. And you talked about Gardeck and Zaven Collins, obviously a former first rounder. Their sacks have come kind of scattered out throughout the whole defense there. They're not very good against the run. Boy, the Rams were really able to get a good footing with their run game on them between the tackles, it seemed like. So this is a team that I think you come out and, man, I mean, Josh Woods and Chris Barnes, they're inside linebackers. And I think Gardeck was on the ground a couple of times. They're just not great against the run overall. So that plays right into the Steelers' wheelhouse, if you will. The Steelers should be expected to run the football on these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I know maybe you can't always expect to run for $150 in a game, but Pittsburgh should run for $150 in this game. They've done it each of the last 4 games, and Arizona's as ripe for the picking as any team in football. They lost Kaiser White at off-ball linebacker. He was their leading tackler, their guy. So yeah, they had to go to Woods and Barnes. They play this 5-1 front in their nickel packages quite a bit with 5 defensive linemen and then 1 off-ball linebacker in Woods. And so if you can get past that first level into the second level where there's 1 off-ball linebacker, you're going to have some daylight. So they may make some plays up front. They got some pluggers up against the run, Lopez in the middle, but get past that first level, there's going to be daylight for the running game.
As seems to be the trend more than anything, they play a lot of zone overall, 72% as a defense, ranked 6th in the NFL, with their corner situation being what it is, like we talked with Bob. That's probably going to facilitate more zone, play into the fact that the Steelers have had their issues with zone. I expect a lot of zone in this one.
You know what they play a lot of, Dave?
Cover 4 or 6, right?
I was making a joke. They play a lot of people. They've had 26 players play the more than 50 defensive snaps. They've had 32 people play at least 1 defensive snap this season. Imagine charting the Cardinals defense. Oh, you shudder at the thought. Pittsburgh's played a lot of people too, but not as many as the Cardinals. So I don't know if that's injury related or just kind of a rebuilding team, but it's a lot of people, some names that aren't super recognizable overall. You're right. They're not a blitz heavy team. The stats back that up, but in third down situations, they go amoeba defense. They go old school, 1 down lineman, no down lineman. They're going to bring blitzes and DBs that way. They got 8 guys with at least 2 sacks this season. Right. And so they bring it from different people. So they're not blitz heavy overall, but on third down, they're going to try to create some chaos looks up front.
Look, Buddha's still there in that defense, and he's a very smart guy. So, you got to be careful in the passing game with him. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how their corner situation shakes out here. because Starling Thomas is banged up. Antonio Hamilton's banged up. Their nickel, Garrett Wilson, is a rookie, I believe, or Garrett Williams is a rookie. How much is Keitrell Clark going to have to play in this game as well, too? I would think that because of that, you're going to see them, they do a lot of light boxes, I think, overall.
Yeah, I don't know the exact rate. I think the NFL has shifted towards a lot of too high stuff, but they've been run on. So I think you probably, maybe indicative of that. It's a really young secondary.
Right.
Jalen Thompson's 25, Marker Wilson's 24, Keitrell Clark is 22, and some injuries there. Thompson's played well, though. Shout out, he was the old supplemental pick back in 2019. So you don't see too many of those guys still hanging. You don't even see the supplemental draft exist anymore, hardly. But I think he's gonna play this weekend. He's the leading interception guy with 3 of them, and him and Boot is a pretty good safety combination.
All right. So look, you should be able to pass the football in this game when you need to. Just make sure you stay in more of those third and shorter situations.
Yeah, I thought I had a couple of just quick notes. In terms of 2-minute drills, they seem to allow the sideline throws much more than you would think. The Rams were kind of just hitting easy 10-yard gains along the sideline in 2-minute situations last week, which was interesting. Do I have any other notes here? No, not really overall. But watch out for those amoeba fronts on third down. But the other numbers, opposing quarterbacks are completing 70% of their passes. That's going to be the worst figure since 2019. They're the worst third down defense in football at 47%. So, the numbers are not looking good. They're 2-10 for a lot of reasons, but that defense, they've allowed at least 20 points in 11 to 12 games this year. And so Pittsburgh, better put up some points in this one.
Boy, Sean McVay was in his bag against them as well, too. He even tried some sucker routes against them where they motion sort of what the Eagles did to the Steelers back in that game last year. We'll send a guy in motion and it looks like it might be an RPO, quick to the guy going in motion, and you have your receivers releasing and acting like they're going to block, but one of them doesn't block and runs an out and up. Now they actually I think the Cardinals covered that particular one pretty well, but just in the whole, I thought McVay and that Rams offense called a great game against them. They struggled with some motions and looked like they had some communication issues because of all the players that they're having to shuffle out there.
One other thing I should mention, what could work, the screen game. Houston hit him on a 2nd and 20 receiver tunnel screen for a first down. The Rams were hitting running back screens all day. They got a touchdown, like wide open walk-in touchdown almost off a running back screen against some of those blitz looks on third down, just kind of an aggressive defense overall. I think, I know Pittsburgh's been very iffy with the screen game, but it could work on some well-timed calls this weekend.
Look, long story short, we expect the Pittsburgh offense to move the football in this game.
I know we said it before, but based on the encouraging results and foundation set against Cincinnati, and based on the opponent, the expectation, there should actually be a pretty high expectation for this offense. Maybe the first time all season.
Yep, and better score some points.
Yep. All right, Dave, I think that's a good coverage of the Cardinals. Make our picks here in just a moment, but before we do that, let's hear from our friends over at MyBookie.
Alex, if you found $100 bill on the ground, you wouldn't walk past it. So don't pass up a chance at easy cash with MyBookie. MyBookie has the biggest online selection of odds and contests to fill all your sports betting needs anytime, anywhere. So you can turn that sports knowledge into cash in your wallet. Bet on the NFL, college bowl games, or play for a share of big cash prizes in the weekly blackjack tournaments that they have. If you've been waiting for the right time to get in on the action, that time is right now. Make your winning move today. Sign up at MyBookie. Use our promo code TERRIBLE and claim your deposit match redeemable up to $1,000. Again, that's promo code TERRIBLE to claim your bonus. Experience the thrill of sports betting right from the comfort of your own home. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie, and obviously you can go and find them at mybookie.ag.
And I think, am I want to know? I think I
want to know. Yeah.
Looking back, I meant to say I was going to take Dallas last night. I wrote Seattle, I was so busy last night. So I I lucked myself into picking the right outcome, I guess. Good game, really high scoring game.
I'm going to rule that as an L for you then.
Feel free.
You're too forthcoming. No, you're 1-0 there. I took Dallas minus the 9.5, and boy, Dallas got lucky to pull that one out, right?
Yeah.
Overall there, Seattle's in trouble now with the record that they have. But you're 1-0. I'm 0-1. Now let's get into this week's games. Los Angeles Chargers on the road against the New England Patriots. The Chargers on the road, laying 5.5. Bill Belichick quarterbacking for this one.
I like the graphic you tweeted out that Amazon had last night of the next week's matchup. It's Bill Belichick versus TJ Watt. I like Watt's chances on the rush. Yeah, I know Bailey Zappi's going to be the starting quarterback. Mac Jones appears to have been benched, and so that's going to be important for Pittsburgh fans to know for next week. The Chargers know how to charger, and they keep things close, so they choke away games, but the talent's going to win out. I got the Chargers in this one.
I'll take the Chargers, lay the 5.5 on the road against New England. Detroit Lions on the road against the New Orleans Saints. The Lions are 4-point road favorites coming off of that loss to Green Bay, right?
Yeah, I'm going to bounce. I'm going to count on Dan Campbell to get this team to bounce back. So give me Detroit.
I'll hold your hand, walk with you on these first two. I'll take the Lions, lay the 4. Tennessee Titans are hosting the Indianapolis Colts. Colts 1-point road favorites, according to my bookie.
Could go either way. A little bit of Minshew mania going on. I'll go without Taylor. Give me Tennessee. Change my mind.
I'm with you. I'll take Tennessee at home to upset the Colts here. This ought to be a pretty good one. Houston Texans are hosting the Denver Broncos. Texans are 3-point home favorites against the Broncos. Both teams need this game.
They do, and credit to Denver and Sean Payton turn around that 1-4 team. But I've been on Houston. I'll continue to be on Houston. Give me the Texans.
Man, I want to go different from you, but I can't. I'm going to take the Texans, lay the 3 points in this one at home against the Broncos as well. Let's see. We have the Atlanta Falcons on the road against the Jets. I know you'll have this one queued up on another TV here, Alex, on Sunday. The Falcons 2-point road favorites.
Tim Boyle versus Desmond Ridder. Where do I sign up? I will take the Falcons.
I'll take the Jets in this one for an upset. Give me the 2 points there in that one. Miami Dolphins on the road against the Washington Commanders. Dolphins laying 9.5 on the road. Another one of those 9.5 games.
Yeah, it's a big line, but I got to go Miami there, Dave.
I'm going to have Miami winning this. That 9.5. I learned my lesson with the Cowboys here on Thursday night. I won't get beat again like that. Give me the Commanders plus the 9.5, but I'll take the Dolphins to win that outright. Carolina Panthers on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers at home laying 5. What do you think about what's happening over there in Carolina?
Nothing good. They're going through coaches like go through socks. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who wants to be the coach of the Panthers. They'll find somebody, but I don't know why Ben Johnson would want to go to Carolina when they're just firing coaches, back-to-back years. And Frank Reich gets fired 11 games in. David Tepper seems like one of those owners that's tough to please, that's for sure. But I think they get the interim head coach bounce with Chris Tabor. I'm going to go Carolina in this one.
I'm not. I'm going to go Tampa. I'm going to lay those 5 points at home against the Carolina Panthers. The Cleveland Browns. Probably going to have to start Joe Flacco in this one on the road against the Los Angeles Rams, who looked. Is Kevin Dotson going to make All-Pro?
Yeah, he's still graded as one of the top guards this year, right?
Yeah, he looked pretty good on tape on that Rams tape versus the Cardinals there as well. The Rams at home laying 3.5 against Cleveland.
Dotson probably still won't be All-Pro because some of that's name recognition and all that kind of stuff. Zach Martin's probably going to get it in those types of things. But either way, yeah, going on their 4th quarterback to start this year, and Joe Flacco, it's too many injuries for Cleveland, even though that defense is elite. I'm going with the Rams.
All right, I'll go with the Rams and lay the 3.5 as well, too. And what should be a very good game. The Eagles are hosting the 49ers. The 49ers are 3-point road favorites here.
Yeah, get the game we're supposed to get last year when Purdy got knocked out, the NFC Championship game, and that game kind of went south pretty quickly. This one's tough, Dave. I don't really know which way I want to go. My gut says 49ers. I'll say 49ers.
My gut says 49ers as well, too. I'll lay those 3 points on the road. Another what could be an interesting game here, was especially the way Jordan Love is playing. Green Bay Packers hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are 6-point road favorites.
Yeah, Love's playing great football the last month. He's kind of showed that he can be that franchise quarterback, hopefully, for the Packers. I mean, Kansas City's had their struggles. It's hard to pick against KC. I'm going with the Chiefs.
I keep saying that this is going to be the week that they get it right on offense. I think this is going to be the week they get it right. I'll lay the 6 points for Kansas City there. Cincinnati on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars laying 9 points against the Bengals.
You know what? I'll say the Jags win. The Bengals find a way to cover this one. Jake Browning's second start, kind of the jitters of that first one out of the way. I think that defense is still better than people think. I'll take the Bengals to cover.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I don't think the Bengals are getting enough respect for the talent on the roster. I don't think the Bengals win this, but I think they'll cover that 9 points. So give me the Bengals on the road +9. That circles us back to the Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the Arizona Cardinals. Alex, it's been since 1969 was the last time the Cardinals organization won a road game in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. That was at the old Pitt Stadium in 1969. Dick Shiner and Kent Nix had the tag team, and Dick Shiner started that one, got knocked out with a left hand injury. Kent Nix took over through several interceptions. The Steelers actually had a 7-0 lead in that game. Chuck Noll's first year as a head coach. The Steelers were 1-1 going into that game. The Cardinals were 1-1. The Cardinals won that game. The Steelers did not win again. That resulted in them with the first overall pick and getting Terry Bradshaw overall. So I went down some rabbit holes, spent way too much time looking back at that game. I was a little over 1.5 years old the last time the Cardinals won a game in Pittsburgh there. The Steelers are 5.5-point home favorites to the Cardinals. What say you?
Good history lesson there. I hope you're sitting down for this prediction, Dave. It might be a little unexpected, although maybe not. We'll see. But if there is a week for this offense that had the building blocks against the Bengals to really put things together to have a complete game, this is the week to do it. I don't take these games for granted. We've seen Pittsburgh lose in games they shouldn't have lost before, and Murray's back, and that run game's going, but Pittsburgh's run defense has been strong. Minkah, I assume, will be back. The defense is going to create chaos, and Pittsburgh should run very well in this game. The receiver should win against their corners, that young secondary. So I think 1969 was last time Pittsburgh scored 30 points in a win. I'm going to say they do it here, Dave. Pittsburgh 30-20. Little high scoring game for once. Don't get used to it, but for one game, high scoring 30-20 Steelers over Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm a lot less reserved than that. I still want to see the baby. I like the way the labor pains are looking right now.
I don't like this conversation and the way we're going.
Look, I think they should be able to move the football in this game on offense. I think the defense can do what they need to do. I wonder if they can score enough points in this one. I think the Steelers win this. I think they score more points than they scored last week. But I want to see them do it before I start getting back into thinking 22, 24, or even 30 points here. I have the Steelers winning this one 22-17 in this one.
You love those weird numbers. 22. I think you picked 22 in some of these games before, so we're gonna get it right.
I'm gonna hit one of them, and then then it's gonna say, "Look, you called it." You know,
you're the guy that has the lotto numbers, same numbers each time.
Yeah. After the fact, after they're drawn, I want to see them put the ball in the end zone. I mean, they should be able to move the football against this Cardinals.
Why do you think they're only going to score 22? I know we have to see it, but if there's a week to predict that you're going to see it, it's got to be this week.
I just can they make it count in the red zone? You know, instead of settling for those Boswell field goals there. I want to see. Kenny's only got 6 touchdown passes still on the season. You know, I gotta see it, Alex. I mean, I think we're going to see them build on a lot of things that they should be able to run the football. They should be able to do fine between the 20s. And look, if special teams plays better than they played last week, that should be another interesting component of this game. I want to see. Like Matt Canada said, got to score more points. So I think they win. I think it looks better statistically than the scoreboard says it will.
You said 22 to what?
17. Yeah.
So still that one possession game. I get it. I mean, it's all Pittsburgh plays this year is one possession games, at least whenever they win. I think if there's going to be a week to do it, it's got to be this week. Last time Pittsburgh has scored 30 points in a victory was November 15th of 2020, the longest active streak / drought in the NFL. I'm going to take a swing and say it ends this week.
All right,
Dave. Running a little bit long here, but have some time to get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right. Anthony writes in, I must respectfully disagree with the listener who wrote into Wednesday's show and said that you guys are too critical and nitpicky. I don't listen to the terrible podcast just to hear sunshine and roses all the time. I tune in for the cold, hard truth, which you deliver through the intrepid reporting and clear-eyed objectivity time and time again. In all my years of listening to the terrible podcast, 10 plus years by now, I think, Anthony writes, I've become not only a smarter Steelers fan, but a smarter fan about the game writ large. Your podcast makes me feel welcome in the world of sports, which is not always the most welcoming of places for all types of people. And I just hope you guys know, for every one critic out there are 100 of us that know you guys at the Depot are the best in the business for a reason. Thank you for everything. Anthony's out there in LA. Anthony, thank you for that email there. So not a question, just a comment. Jesse Hernandez writes in, hey guys, happy Friday. With Ben's recent podcast and the previous shakeup at OC, you have to ask, with your best knowledge, and please elaborate as much as possible, what exactly is the quarterback coach's responsibility for? What is he responsible for? And what do you expect him to do naturally? Thank you, guys. Go Solely 24, he writes. Jesse Hernandez. All right. What exactly does Mike Sullivan do here?
What do you do here? The Bob's talk. He's asking in the capacity of quarterbacks coach and not OC / play caller. Is that, I just want to be clear.
Yeah, look, he says, please elaborate as much as possible. What exactly is the quarterback coach responsible for, and what do you expect him to do naturally?
Well, like any positional coach, you're teaching the technique of the position. And so from a technical aspect, in terms of footwork and I don't know, just your upper body and lower body and how that all coordinates together, and how you get depth on a drop and that type of stuff, your arm angles, and anything technical is going to be the positional coach responsibility. And so of course it is with Mike Sullivan and Kenny Pickett in the quarterback room overall. They're going to watch tape together during the week. They're going to obviously be pretty important in terms of the game plan. They're going to talk on the sidelines. Even when Canada was here, you saw Sullivan, granted partially because Canada was upstairs, but you saw those guys going over tape on the sidelines to review, or the photos, I should say, of the sideline to see, what went wrong and what coverages the defense was playing and stuff like that. But I just broadly speaking, when you're talking positional coaches, you're talking about, teaching the technique and the real, nitty gritty coaching points of each position.
I read one time that a quarterback coach's job is to keep the offensive coordinator out of the room as much as possible.
Interesting.
And that's loose. That's obviously, I don't think you could rubber stamp this. I think you can generally with what a quarterback coach does, but I imagine that there's some differences from team to team. Obviously help game plan, make sure the game plan is passed along without, and answer any questions related to that. Obviously, in the situation right now with the Steelers, Sullivan has probably a pretty good, opinion or what goes into the game plan. Just everything quarterback. I think Alex pretty much said a mouthful. I mean, it's hard to know exactly what that happens, but I mean, he is called a quarterback coach. He works with the quarterbacks specifically there. So everything that would entail, like Alex said.
Yeah, just like a running backs coach is going to go through drills, going to lead drills, going to go through the technique of the position. They're going to watch film together. They're going to grade the players each week, that kind of stuff. Really quickly, Dave, have any reaction to Ben's comments about he had a really close relationship with Sullivan, and with Canada was the first time he really didn't work as closely with the OC as he had before with, Bruce Arians, et cetera, guys like that. Do you have any reaction to that?
I mean, it was interesting to hear the words come out of his mouth after the fact. Why wasn't he saying this before?
I don't know if he just didn't want to try to make the waves when Canada was there, and now that he's gone, you're probably maybe a little freer to talk. Ben not
worried,
making waves, I know.
Been worried about not making waves. Look, is there something there? Could there have been kind of a more standoffish? Maybe Canada was afraid to step on his toes too much. I don't know. I wasn't there, and we know how, at times Ben, I
believe Ben.
There is kernels of truth to what he said. I agree with that. Ben was obviously closer to Randy Fichtner, right?
Yeah, I mean, he just said in general he would always work really closely with the OC, and then when Canada came in, it was kind of okay, working closer with the quarterbacks coach instead.
Maybe Canada didn't feel the need to. I don't know. I mean, not knowing it makes it hard when you're talking about he said
sure.
type of situation. I really haven't given it much thought. I know it draws a lot of attention after the fact with Canada out of the building now.
Yeah, I mean, it may just be Canada's experience coming from the college ranks. It's maybe how they did it before, and just kind of his style and method that's possible. I just think back. Remember that report? I know the team shot it down, but that report, they wanted Canada to kind of be more involved with Kenny, to kind of change up the role so he was closer with Kenny. Hearing what Ben said, I wonder if that actually might have been kind of true, and the team just shot it down just to try to sweep that story under the rug. But it kind of makes sense now.
Yeah, you could go that route with it as well too.
Anyway.
Look, we just got to see Kenny continue to build on what he did last week,
Yeah, and that may be why, and Ben made the point of why Kenny had more success with Sullivan last week, because he's worked with Sullivan probably closer than he has at Canada. And there's a relationship there that's important, and those guys maybe just were in sync more often.
All right, Bryce writes in, when you factor in all the injuries to each of the teams, is it safe to say that right now Pittsburgh actually has the best collection of pass catchers in the AFC North? If not, who would you rank higher than them? And he's talking about the AFC North.
Like currently, as in who's healthy, or just,
I guess he roster. Says who has the best collection of, Cincinnati's got some talented dudes over there.
Yeah, I mean, when guys are healthy, Chase and Higgins and Boyd is up there. And I think the Ravens have a really good group again when healthy, when Andrews was healthy. And I still like Bateman, and Zay Flowers is going to be a dude for a long time.
Beckham's made some big plays for him and all like that. I mean, look, we know the warts with the Steelers wide receivers. Diontae's, we know we already talked about a lot of the warts with Diontae earlier in the show. That's not surprising and all like that. George Pickens has got to still got to work on becoming a better route runner.
Yeah, so to answer the question, I really don't know where I would rank it. I probably would not put Pittsburgh at the top. They don't have some of the depth throughout in the slot guys, for example. But it's a group you can win with, a group that you can produce with. And just quickly speaking of pass catchers, Michael Wilson of the Cardinals officially been ruled out. So with that shoulder, so their top deep threat is now out to this game.
All right, number 2, I'm having a hard time understanding why the Steelers tend to only use tight ends over the middle of the field. While Pat does a great job in that area, it seems Robinson and Pickens would also thrive with more concepts and opportunities to go there as well. I think Robinson is being a little underused in this area. So what would you do to build off of last week's performance to threaten more of the middle? Look, Kenny missed one to Pickens over the middle. Look, we still would like to see a couple more, use of the wide receivers over the middle of the field more, period. And maybe we'll start seeing more of that moving forward here. But you have to start somewhere. And boy, it was great to see it start with Pat Freiermuth down the middle of the field against some of those middle of the field open situations that presented himself in that game. And I think we'll probably see some more middle of the field open in this game against the Cardinals as well too. if you're getting a lot of zone against you, I mean, long story short, yeah, they need to use the wide. Do they need to use Robinson technically more in the passing game though?
I mean, I would just say I would like to see a couple more catches for like your number 3, number 4 receivers who are playing. I mean, Robinson's playing a lot of snaps. He's not really he's contributing, but you would like maybe 2 receptions a game. So I get that. He's made his mark on third down, some tough catches when they really had to have it type stuff. So I've called for them to do a little bit more there. But if Pat's going to catch 9, 10 balls a game, which he won't do every single game, but if he can catch 5 passes a game, then you're kind of getting that production at least in that area of the field, typically speaking. So that makes it less of an issue overall, I guess.
All right, Robert Cole writes in, great conversation about the Tomlin book. Fascinating and absolutely excellent. I've listened to you guys since the beginning. Pittsburgh native living in SoCal, another California person here. Keep up the great work. Love your podcast. Alex has been a game changer. Love you, Dave. Best and most credible source of Steelers news. F word, the national media. Robert Cole. Thanks for that email, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
All right, I think we got to it. As usual on a Friday, we've run a little bit long. If you're having a problems, also look, some of you don't use Spotify or don't use Apple, or some of you even do use Apple. We've had some problems the last 3 days with the RSS feed attached to the podcast. So apologize if it's not updating timely right now. We have reached out to everybody we can to help try to get this solved. I know it temporarily solved. Yes. So some of you used Pocket Cast or some of these other ones. If it's not updating and you're not seeing it when you think you should see it, obviously if you're listening to this, you got to it here.
Hello.
But if you do, go to the site and see the post there to see if it's up, and you can either listen to it online. I think Spotify has still been good about updating it there if you want to subscribe that way there. I apologize. Sometimes these technical gremlins get in here that we don't control, that third parties control, and that forces me to spend 3 hours a day chasing these things down here. So all I can do is apologize and hope that we get this squared away as soon as possible. And thank you to everybody out there that's been sending those Spotify badges or reports and all like that. We see those, and look, it's been a great year for the podcast, and we know that we're not going to please 100% of the people all the time, and we're just very appreciative of everybody who listens, new listeners, old listeners, everybody. Just thank you for listening, and we'll try to get these gremlins cleared up here for you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Happy December, and we'll talk to you Monday and see how the game goes.
All right, as always, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button and follow the directions that way. So here's to us talking about another win on Monday, Alex. And until then, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.